Hi, all you people.
Hello, people.
Happy New Year's. I'm indulging in a drink or four.
Really? It's so hard to tell.
So,
you sound completely sober.
You'll find out.
Thank you so much for joining us. The first official Dale's Reading Club. It's not a very creative name, but neither is my channel, Dale's Dubs. So...
I like it. It's a good name. It's a very comfy name.
Thank you. A comfy name.
I like it. Hi, people. I'm gonna say hi.
You're already saying, God, you are so drunk.
No!
Today is totally low pressure, just do the worst character voices you've ever done if you want. You can try if you want, you can just be completely flamboyant.
I have a reputation.
You have a reputation. Alright.
I do the funny skeleton voices online.
Okay, well, you can continue to do funny skeleton voices here. I take myself about as seriously as a brick, which is not a very good metaphor, but I think you know what I mean.
If you ever need a voice, I know a guy.
You do?
Me.
Okay. I would absolutely love to collaborate with you on comics.
I can, besides the funny bone man, I can voice the other funny bone man, which is Papyrus.
Yeah, the slightly taller funny bone man.
Yeah, that took a while to do though, because my voice is naturally deeper.
Oh yeah? Yeah!
So it did take a while. It actually, I don't know, where does his voice come from?
It comes from the back of my throat, I believe.
It's so good though, you're so good at it!
You have to find where voices live, and once you do that, you can kind of make them say whatever you want.
The only speaking parts are the old man and, Underfell Sands. Which one of those do you want to be, and which one should I be? 'Cause I'm fine with both.
I think you could be an old dude.
I'll be an old dude. I'll be an old dude. I'll admit.
I'll be the funniest.
Dave,
the funny
I'll
bone man.
admit. You can probably do a little bit of a better Underfell Sands than I can.
We'll see. I have to know his character, his morals quandary inside his head, you know?
Yeah, really get in the role, do some method acting.
Who is Fell Sands? Why is he fallen?
Well, the background in this one, it's a sort of take on Beauty and the Beast.
Are we reading through the whole thing?
No, we're reading through, I guess, as much until you pass out. But no,
don't say that.
I figured... Beauty and the Skele, which is a working name. Working title, Beauty and the Skele, by Ikky. Today was not a good day. It was cold, he had to get married, and now there was a human in his garden. This was problematic for many reasons. For one thing, as the literal lord of all he surveyed, Sans always found it hard to get any alone time, much less a chance to nap. He'd started coming outside each night after dinner to doze off for a few precious minutes, at least until the wind whistled through his sockets one time too many, or his brother started yelling at him over the wall. On this particular evening, though, after his chat with Toriel, his sole aim was to avoid seeing anyone. Luckily, he'd already forbidden the others from coming into the garden, and he was prepared to stay out here forever if he had to, weather and Papyrus be damned.
Sans was not prepared to take a shortcut to his favorite bench by the nightshades and sit down, only to catch sight of someone hunched behind a bush at the end of the row. The skeleton scrambled to his feet in a sudden panic, readying his magic to defend himself. Who or what the hell was that? No one should be here. This was his place. Had Toriel told him all that crap to trick him into going out alone, then sent someone after him?
His instinct was to attack first, but for all Sans knew, this was some kind of trap. Instead, he watched and listened, waiting for the thing to make its move. His soul thrummed like a harp string, ready to summon bones to skewer the intruder or teleport away. But nothing happened. As the seconds ticked by, Sans gradually realized that the small, dark-clothed figure wasn't crouched to spring at him or lying in wait, just bending down to examine the flowers. He couldn't sense any malicious intent whatsoever. In fact, it didn't seem to know he was there, or that he was coming closer for a better look.
Well, no wonder. It was wearing a cloak and a deep hood that blocked its peripheral vision, and it was facing into the wind, where it couldn't hear or smell anyone sneaking up from behind. That meant the intruder was either very confident, or really fucking stupid. Maybe it was just Monster Kid, or one of the others screwing with him. After all, no matter how often Sans told them to stay the hell out of his garden, and no matter how strongly his subjects were compelled to obey him, he kept finding rocks, bits of bone, and other junk the little bastards had thrown over the wall. Things had gotten better since Papyrus started patrolling the outer courtyard, happy to combine his favorite pastimes of keeping things tidy and beating the shit out of people. But
no, this wasn't a kid who'd found a loophole in his orders, or an adult monster strong enough to defy him. Sans took a couple of quick shortcuts at different angles to appraise the intruder, confirming that it wasn't sized or shaped like anyone he knew. It also failed to react when he stepped through an arch of greenery just a few feet away. No shift of attention, no magic gathering to attack or defend itself. Who could possibly be that dumb? None of the surviving monsters would ever dream of dropping their guard like this, not even the kids. The wind shifted and Sans' nasal ridge twitched as an unfamiliar stench hit him. He recognized the scent of leather from its clothes, but there were strong hints of some kind of hair and bodily fluids? There was something missing, too, so basic that it took Sans a minute to pinpoint it. The trespasser had no magic whatsoever.
that was the most confusing thing of all. No matter how fishy or perfumed or otherwise gross they might be, everyone had that dry, slightly spicy smell. Had someone dressed up an animal and released it into the garden as a prank? A thrill of fear raced through him, again. Did Toriel's curse include female animals? It'd be just like her to dump that on him, and then make sure he had ran into a bear or a deer or something. Suddenly, the intruder sighed heavily, straightened up, and shook his hood off. To Sans' shock, that wasn't an animal or a monster. The thing standing in his garden was a human. It turned its back to the wind, squinting down at the white stone path and up at the surrounding wall, the smooth black marble shining rose gold in the twilight.
What the hell was a human doing here? At least it was a male. Sans relaxed a little, then shook himself and edged forward. Humans were legendary for their cruelty and cunning, but this particular specimen didn't seem very dangerous. Beneath its dusty travel clothes and heavy cloak, it was almost as short as Sans, with a wrinkly face and gray streaks in its hair. Did all humans get like that after only, 50 years? Granted, Sans was just 25, a baby by monster standards, but he wouldn't be this twitchy or feeble when he reached the human's age. And he wouldn't be dumb enough to wander into someone else's territory after sundown. The man had started walking again, still oblivious to Sans' presence, and paused at a fork in the path. Sans silently willed him to turn right, and he'd been obeyed by everyone he knew for so long that it was a surprise to see the human go left instead. The skeleton watched in irritation, then disbelief, as his uninvited guest sat down on a low wall and pulled a map out of his pocket.
That had to be the stupidest thing Sans had ever seen. Did human maps of the area include Haunted Castle on Forbidden Mountain? He doubted it. Besides, there was a village at the foot of the mountain, straight down through the forest. Even if he couldn't find the main path, all this moron had to do was walk downhill, back the way he'd... Wait, how had he even gotten here? Quick as thought, Sans zipped over to the massive iron gates that stood between the castle and the outside world. Sure enough, the ivy growing between the bars had been disturbed at one end where the man had squeezed through. Sans extended one bony finger very, very slowly towards the gate, and as his phalange approached the nearest bar, the air filled with a warning hum, his bones prickling with alarm till he stepped away.
The barrier was still working, then. What had the king said before they dusted him? Anything could get in, but nothing could get out, except a monster in possession of a human soul. But there were no... The skeleton monster's sockets widened again, this time in excitement. He grinned hugely, then took a shortcut back to the human, who was trying to fold up the map. Just in case, Sans peered at the human's chest, gauging how much effort this would take. His elation immediately vanished, disgust welling up in its place. Of all the humans who could have wandered up here, it had to be one with a pathetically weak, almost sickly little soul. And why did it have to be green? Fucking kindness! Talk about shitty luck. Not that he was going to pass up the opportunity, of course. Absorbing any human soul, no matter how crappy, would give him power greater than every other monster who'd ever lived combined. He could finally pass through the gates, descend on the human village like a force of nature, grab as many souls as he wanted, and come back here to destroy No, he'd wreck the whole fucking castle. The others would finally be free, too, though he wouldn't be stupid enough to share any souls with them. Maybe Pap could have a few, just enough to fulfill his dream of tearing Undyne to pieces, and to help eliminate Toriel. Then they'd be untouchable in a world where kill or be killed was the only rule.
Sans was jerked back to the present by the human making a horribly wet noise and pulling a square of cloth from his pocket. Why was this disgusting sack of flesh even here anyway? As far as Sans knew, no one had come near the castle for decades. Even the local wildlife stayed far away. Yet here he was, an ordinary-looking human who had come all the way up the mountain in the approaching dark. The man had finally sensed something was wrong and was looking around uneasily.
Hello?
He called. Sans stayed where he was, silent and contemptuous. Sure enough, the human's gaze swept right past him.
Odd,
he murmured, lowering the map and folding it in half.
We get to do dialogue soon, this'll be fun. Sans knew he should go ahead and kill the guy now, but the wind chose that moment to pick back up, rustling through the flowers and nearly yanking the map out of the human's hands. The man swore and fumbled at the stiff parchment, fighting to keep a hold of it. Friggin' parchment. The skeleton chuckled, almost pityingly. Dave, chuckle.
Oh, Sorry, my button was stuck.
As lord of the castle, he decided he could be magnanimous and let this moron finish putting the map away. Besides, it was funny as hell to watch him lose to a piece of paper. Eventually, the man gave up and tried instead to stuff the half-folded map into his pocket, pulling a few things out to make room. Enough of this, thought Sans, his amusement fading. The skeleton took a few steps forward, letting his magic swell to a darkly feverish pitch and drift off him like red smoke. He was probably scary enough as it was, but anything worth doing was worth overdoing, especially when it'd make the human's reaction that much funnier. Besides, this idiot had trespassed on Sans' land and his solitude at exactly the wrong time. A quick, clean death was too good for him, but it couldn't be helped. Sans had to get his soul out in one piece and reach the village before daybreak. Ha! Maybe he'd put his hood up and pretend to be the Reaper humans feared so much. Wasn't that why they had exterminated every single skeleton monster but him and Pap? He'd give the fuckers something to be afraid of. It was time, all right. The human had finally sensed someone at his back and began to turn around. Excuse me,
Another gust of wind suddenly came howling through the garden and tore the map out of the human's grip. It landed with a thunk and skidded across the white stone path. With it went a couple of envelopes he'd set on his lap, and another, much smaller piece of paper, which blew straight into the nearest flower bed. The human's demeanor changed in an instant from annoyance to panic.
No!
He flailed at the air, then stumbled over the wall, charging through the flowers.
Come back here!
He yelled, as if the wind or the paper could understand him. Sans froze, feeling his magic go still as the blossoms answered, or rather echoed.
Come back here! Come back here! Come back here!
The hell was the guy doing tromping around like that? Those were echo flowers, not daisies. One of them was worth 20 of this dumb fuck.
The wind was still blowing, but after a few clumsy grabs, the human threw himself full length onto the ground, trapping the paper amongst the squished flowers. He sighed gustily, and stood up, smiling. There you are, he murmured, his voice clear as the wind dropped to a light breeze. The skeleton couldn't see what the human was looking at so fondly. In his irate curiosity, he hesitated another moment too long. The man said to himself. Yes, that'll do. He crouched again, grabbed a blossom at random, and plucked it clean out of the ground.
What the fuck?
Sans' roar shattered the air like a rock through a stained-glass window. He was too angry to enjoy the human's shriek of terror, "Ah!" or his attempt to turn and run. The skeleton jerked his hand up and sideways, yanking the man off his feet and hurling him onto the path.
Who the fuck do you think you are?
Snarled Sans. His magic flared up again as he advanced, staining the footpath red.
Huh?
The human was trembling violently, staring up at him.
Are you deaf or something?
The monster demanded. He grabbed the man by the collar, hauling him to his feet.
Answer me, or I'll rip your fucking head off!
The human gulped. He squeezed his eyes shut, sweat rolling off his face. But please forgive me, my lord. I was being pursued by bandits, and they didn't stop until I reached this place. I needed shelter, someone to point the way home. He peeked up at Sans again, almost hiccuping in fear. If you'll permit me to leave, I swear I'll never trouble you again. Sans glanced up at a nearby lantern hanging on an iron post, and it obligingly lit itself.
That's for damn sure,
said the skeleton. His wrath faded a little as his prisoner gaped at him in the clearer light. Now he understood the expression bug-eyed, not to mention slack-jawed. It was one of the funniest things he'd ever seen. Still.
You expect me to believe that you just wandered in here out of nowhere?
Sans jerked his head at the castle looming behind him, though the moon hadn't risen to provide a properly spooky silhouette.
Did you think you could sneak in, grab something, and get out before anybody noticed? 'Cause I fucking noticed.
He stabbed a finger at the echo flower in the human's hand.
That shit doesn't grow just anywhere.
The man blinked stupidly at the flower, as if surprised to see it. His eyes darted back and forth, his other hand sneaking towards his pocket. I can explain, my lord. Sans waggled his finger, and the human cried out as his hand was yanked straight over his head, the little slip of paper fluttering to the ground. Ignoring his protests, Sans made a couple more gestures to open the man's coat and run a thread of magic through the pockets, then the lining. He frowned as he found several coins, letters, a comb, a pipe, but no weapons. If the human hadn't been going for a knife or something, then what the hell was he doing? Was he just trying to put the paper away? How goddamn stupid could he? Please! The man almost shrieked, and Sans was startled into releasing him. He watched the human stumble back, dropping the echo flower in his haste to run after the slip of paper again. Luckily for him, it blew against the corner of another bench, where he could easily stoop to retrieve it. The map lay nearby, but the human didn't even look at it. He sighed in relief and started to turn around. Sans was standing directly in front of him, grinning at his strangled squeak.
What you got there?
The skeleton didn't wait for an answer, just reached for it. No! To his astonishment, the man flailed at him, backing away till his shins hit the bench. It's nothing, the human babbled. Nothing at all. Just a picture that I didn't want to lose. You can leave it. Later, Sans would try to blame himself for not being more careful. But he had every right to be curious, and no reason to be thinking of Toriel right then. It was only natural for him to use his magic to grab the paper and hold it up to see what was so fucking important. So, he did. The human was right. It was a delicate ink drawing. Sans felt the smirk slide right off his face, and he took the picture in both hands, peering so intently that he didn't even notice the man grabbing his sleeve.
Who's this?
The skeleton inquired, trying to sound careless.
Your wife?
My daughter! The guy was actually jumping to try to grab it, like a frantic kid. As I said, it's worth nothing to you. Please, give it back. Sans absently pushed the human off with his elbow, raising the paper to the light.
Knock it off,
He grunted as the man came right back. The human's sheep-like face contorted. Has my lord never seen a woman before? Give it back! Skeletal fingers shot out and locked around his throat. To Sans' surprise, when he glared down at the human, the man glared right back, even as he clawed at Sans' radius.
Why do you want it so bad? Is she dead or something?
The monster asked in sudden hope. The human's eyes bulged wider, and he struggled to speak until Sans loosened his grip. After a bit of coughing and puffing, the man rasped, How dare you! She is my child, you wretched beast! He dashed Sans' hopes with a jerky shake of his head. I've been away from her for over a month, and I was only hours from home when I was attacked. That's all I've had of her. If I'm going to die at your hand, the very least you can do is let me see it one more time. Sans' jaw clenched so hard that his single golden tooth creaked under the pressure. Don't do that, Sans, that was probably an expensive tooth. He shut his sockets, aware that he had to think very carefully before he spoke.
I've got some questions for you.
He snarled.
Tell me the truth, and you might leave in one piece.
He opened his sockets, his ruby eyelights pulsing across the human's face.
Got it?
The wind shrieked past them again, but Sans held both the human and the slip of paper steady. The man stared at him in clear distrust. Sans wasn't sure if he was being brave, or stupid, or what, but he wasn't cowering anymore. As a slight token of respect, the skeleton opened his hand, letting the human jerk away.
Yes, my lord.
The latter whispered, massaging his throat.
Whatever you wish.
Sans snorted. Like in what way? and snuck another glance at the portrait.
What's your family name? What were you doing away from home for so long?
The man's brow wrinkled further.
My name is Proust, my lord. I'm a merchant, so I travel frequently. I've been investigating a business opportunity in the capital.
A merchant? That was hard to believe. The coins in the human's pockets consisted solely of pennies and a few silver pieces that Sans didn't recognize. Proust was dressed fairly well, but on closer inspection, the fur trim of his cloak was patchy, while his leather coat was shiny with age. Either he was a cheapskate, or he hadn't made any real money in a long time.
How'd it go?
Sans asked sardonically.
Poorly, my lord.
The man snapped.
I promised Frisk I'd bring her something from the city, but then I could barely afford to pay my way home.
He looked down at the echo flower, which lay on the stones between them.
She likes gardening, so... Sans knew he should make another fuss about the theft, but he had a bigger problem.
Frisk?
He repeated.
Is that a nickname or something?
No, Proust said stiffly. What else would my lord care to know? Sans gave him another glare, and though the man flinched, he didn't look away.
Heh.
The skeleton murmured.
She your only kid?
Yes, my lord. My wife died in childbirth. Frisk. His voice caught. She's all I have left. The monster grimaced. He almost would have preferred an aggressive human to a sappy one.
How old is she?
The paper trembled. It wasn't the wind. His hands were shaking.
Did you leave her home alone? Or with her husband? Or...
The human eyed him in rightful suspicion. She's 22, my lord. We live with my brother's family. She's unwed. I've had several offers for her hand, but she refused them all.
Why?
Sans asked bluntly. Proust blinked a few times. She didn't love them. She didn't even like most of them. And the one she might have accepted left because my brother wouldn't give her a dowry. Why do you...
A dowry?
Sans repeated.
What the hell is that?
This was obviously a sensitive question. The human's face turned a weird color, and something pulsed near his eyebrow. A vein? Was that what it was called? Sans turned his head in disgust, studying the portrait again. If she had veins, he couldn't see any. Yes, Sans, she has veins.
Sexy veins.
She has sexy veins. Damn girl, you got some sexy veins. The human cleared his throat. It's a gift of money, or other goods, that a woman brings to a marriage. Many young women in our social class have a difficult time trying to find a husband without one. And
you don't have enough cash to sell her off?
Sans waved a hand as Proust swelled with rage again.
Never mind. Whatever stupid shit humans get up to, I don't care.
He was quiet for a moment.
Just seems pathetic that you gotta pay someone to take her.
Was my lord listening? The human demanded. I've had 6 other gentlemen ask to marry her, and 4 were willing to forego any dowry at all. She was good enough. It was Sans' turn to twitch.
Why? What's so great about her?
Oh, this is gonna be fun. Proust made a noise like an angry frog.
Good.
May I humbly entreat my lord to explain his gracious interest in my family? Sans toyed with the idea of telling him the truth and shrugged.
Just curious. So, I'm guessing you want to see her again.
Yes, my lord, absolutely, the man said in a rush. I'd do anything. You have no idea how much she means to me. He looked longingly at the paper in Sans' hand, still held up to the lamplight. She drew that herself, he added.
Sans started.
Really?
He asked before he could stop himself.
Yes, indeed,
The human said proudly. The skeleton scowled at the picture. It was a perfect rendition of a young woman seated at the table, wearing an old-fashioned gown. Her dark hair was twisted up into a bun, showing a small earring, a pearl necklace, and a graceful curve of neck and shoulder. Now that Proust mentioned it, she did seem to be drawing herself in the mirror, one hand holding a pencil and the other steadying the paper. Her head tilted to look up at Sans. For a moment, he was so angry that he couldn't breathe. This was bullshit. Why should he pass up his chance at unlimited power because of a girl who probably wasn't even that pretty in real life? He should just rip the stupid picture in half, rip the human in half, grab his shitty green soul, and get things started. But the longer he stared at the paper, the less he wanted to rip it in half, kill the human, become godlike, etc., etc. It just seemed boring, unnecessary. This was all Toriel's fault. She'd called him into her room that evening in an absolute fit of laughter and told him exactly what was going to happen. And the old bitch knew he'd come down here afterward, and
he couldn't stay mad about it. Instead, something weird was happening behind his sternum. A sticky kind of warmth as his heart grew 10 sizes that day.
oh no.
A sticky kind of warmth spreading... Sorry, I'm laughing too much. Sorry. Serious. Yeah, serious. This is serious business. Serious.
Serious time.
And he couldn't stay mad about it. Instead, something weird was happening behind his sternum. A sticky kind of warmth spreading like an infection through his ribcage and down his limbs. No matter how hard he tried to dwell on being jerked around, or why it had to be some squishy human with a dumb father and a weird name, Sans couldn't look away from the portrait, caught by the girl's clear, bright eyes. No one had ever smiled at him like that. He came down here every night to get away from everyone, but what if he had someone he didn't want to get away from? Unbidden, a thought crept up. What would the garden look like with this human in it? Helping water the flowers, or sitting with him to watch the sunset? What would it be like to always have someone to talk to about stuff bothering him? Help with all the day-to-day crap of running the household? Smile at him? Keep him warm at night? Shit. Had Toriel laughed at him because she knew he'd actually want this to happen? Hello? Proust was asking. Milord, is something wrong? Sans shook himself.
Fine, she can draw. Does she know how to do anything?
That'd be a perfect excuse to forget about her. If he wanted to keep something cute and useless around, he could just put a collar on one of the kids and make it do tricks. That is kind of fucked up, Sans. Don't do that. The human actually laughed at him. We went to stay with my brother, milord, when Frisk was 14 years old. He was a widower, so she took it upon herself to be the lady of the house. Within a few months, she was managing his servants, balancing his accounts, organizing his social affairs, clear up until he remarried last year. His narrow chest puffed out. It's a large part of the reason she's been sought after. Any man would be lucky to have her. The monster's hands were trembling again, a strange sensation burning him from the inside out. It was a childish question, but he couldn't help it.
Is she nice?
Proust looked at him strangely. Yes, milord, she is. He flinched as Sans' grip on the drawing tightened. Forgive me, the man quavered, but why do you...
Give me your hand,
growled the skeleton. He gestured, keeping the paper suspended in midair as he lowered his own hands.
Take the glove off.
Proust swallowed once or twice, then obeyed. Sans didn't hide his distaste as he took hold of Proust's wrist, the human's pulse twitching against his thumb. Probably another one of those pesky, disgusting veins.
Yeah.
For a second, he
Gross.
For a second, he didn't know if he could go through with it. Then he glanced at the portrait and said,
Don't move.
Before he could lose his nerve, the monster lifted a skull-shaped pendant from beneath his shirt, positioned the human's finger between its tiny jaws, and willed them to snap shut. Proust yelped as the pendant latched onto his finger. What in God's name is that thing? He cried, trying to shake it off.
Magic,
Sans said pleasantly. The poor skull didn't seem to like it any more than the human did. Its jaws sprang right back open, and he could have sworn he saw it make a face at him. Proust was staring at his hand in disbelief, searching for signs of any blood or puncture wounds. Nothing. What? What?
Here's what's gonna happen.
Sans tucked the pendant back under his shirt.
There's a spot over by the gates where you can sleep. No one's allowed in there, so you ought to be safe till morning. When you leave, just head straight down the mountain. Pretty much any of the paths will take you to Ebbet. I'd send you there now, but my magic can't get through the barrier on the gate.
He sighed.
Need to pull some strings to get you back out and all.
The human was torn between intense relief and distrust. Thank you, milord. May I...
Nope. Just be happy that's all I did.
Sans indicated the man's finger as Proust pulled his glove back on.
I'll even let you bring her the flower. Nice, eh?
The man swallowed hard. Yes, my lord, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. But may I ask why? The shadows seemed to creep in, darkening the lamplight. The human shrank back as the skeleton's grin broadened.
You want to hear something funny?
Sans reached up to run a finger along the portrait's bottom edge.
I'm the boss around here, but there's a lady hanging around I can't get rid of. And she knows stuff. Guess what she told me before I came out here? Go on, guess.
Proust looked nearly sick. I don't know, my lord. What did she...
She said, congratulations. And I said, on what? And she said, on your upcoming marriage. So of course, I said, the fuck you talking about? And she said, I was gonna meet my wife real soon.
It was subtle, but Proust's eyes flicked to Sans' pelvis. The skeleton's amusement vanished. Just like a human, didn't he know how magic worked?
Yeah, my wife.
He growled.
Funny part is, she was right.
The monster took Frisk's drawing in one hand and tapped the side of his skull with it.
Wanna know who Toriel said it'd be?
The man didn't move, except to make a noise vaguely resembling, "Oh." Sans chuckled.
The first woman I saw once I left the room.
A beat of silence. Sorry, I'm gonna drink some water.
Drink water. It's good for you.
Drink water. A beat of silence. Sans was wondering if he'd have to spell it out when Proust howled, "Oh, this'll be fun. I'm gonna get away from the microphone for this. No!"
Good.
And made a credible attempt to tackle Sans and grab his daughter's picture. "You can't!" The skeleton sent him sprawling with one push.
Sorry, Dad.
He drawled.
I left the room, and I saw her. That's that.
He laughed harshly at the man's expression.
What? She's gonna get her own damn castle. Lots of nice stuff. I won't even make you pay for her.
You! Sans watched bemused as the human sprang to his feet, fists clenched. Veins probably also doing their veiny thing again.
Veins.
Tear me limb from limb if you want, but I'm not giving my daughter to a thing like you!
Yeah, about that.
The skeleton raised a finger.
You know that little nibble you got just now? It's a great trick. Let me show you how it works.
What to do? Better not get carried away, or the guy would have a nervous breakdown before he could get his daughter up here.
Grab the echo flower and say, I'm a stupid doo-doo butt.
You delivered that perfectly. Before Proust could protest, his body turned, stooped, and picked up the blue flower. He brought it to his lips and said very solemnly, I'm a stupid doo-doo butt. Then his head jerked up. What in the... Sans hooted with laughter, fighting the urge to slap his future father-in-law on the back and accidentally break his spine.
See, when I say you're gonna do something, you don't have a choice, do you?
He sobered in an instant.
So you're gonna go home and fetch her for me. Got it?
It doesn't matter what you have done to me, Proust said defiantly. You said it yourself. Once I pass the gates, your magic won't have any effect.
Good thing it ain't my magic then. It's yours.
He got a blank stare and sighed in exasperation. This was getting old. Almost as old as the old man.
Old.
It was chilly out here, and he had a lot of planning to do.
I don't have time for a whole magic lesson. What it boils down to is, you're a part of this place now. The magic's with you, wherever you go, even when you get back home.
Proust chose that moment to make a break for it. Sans watched him race towards the gates, then reappeared directly in front of the bars, forcing the human to stop short.
Listen,
He said coldly, forestalling Proust's attempt to cover his ears.
3 days from now, you're gonna bring Frisk here. You're gonna tell her whatever you need to make her stay. Then, you're gonna shut up and leave. And you won't come back.
The human's face was crumpling in a way that suggested something wet was about to happen. Ew. Oh. You can't be serious, my lord. Please, spare her. Kill me instead.
Oh, for fuck's sake, quit being dramatic.
Sans jerked his thumb at the castle.
Like I said, she's gonna have everything a lady could ever want. Almost everyone's dead now, so there's a bunch of neat stuff left. Hell, we got a whole room with nothing but jewelry in it.
For some reason, this didn't seem to reassure the human. Frisk does not want things, and even if she could be bought off like that, a wonderful young woman like her has no business being entrapped by a loathsome abomination like you.
Shut your fucking mouth. Right fucking now.
Proust's teeth clicked shut as the air around Sans roiled with crimson magic.
Just for that.
The skeleton hissed. He stepped forward, jabbing the human's shoulder with one pointed phalange, almost a claw.
Just for that, you're not allowed to make stuff up about her going to school or marrying a human or something. You're gonna tell the truth. You fucked up and trespassed on my property. And you only get to live because you had something worth trading.
Another poke.
Let her know that you've got 3 days from now.
Sans glanced at the rising moon.
And if you're not here by then, she gets to watch her dad rot from the inside out.
Another long moment of silence passed as the human stared up at Sans, hopelessness dawning as he searched in vain for any sign of mercy. There was no telling what he would have said if another sound hadn't made them both jump. Oh boy, it's Papyrus! Dave, it's your time to shine!
What papyrus is? Is it Underfell papyrus?
This is Underfell
or
Papyrus,
regular?
so just do regular Papyrus, but meaner.
Okay.
Sans!
Oh, that's such a good voice! Oh, it's so good!
Thank you.
It came from over the marble wall, advancing rapidly.
You have exactly as much leisure as you deserve, Lord Brother.
You have had.
Yes. I hope your time has been restful, because you have 15 miscreants to discipline and a jam shortage to address before you can retire for the night.
A stiff click-click of heeled boots.
I will be waiting in your sitting room. You are humbly requested to be there within 10 minutes, or else face severe consequences.
Sans mumbled a long stream of curse words as Papyrus's footsteps strutted away. That reminded him of something.
Don't even think about killing yourself, or breaking a leg, or something to get out of this.
The skeleton said, still facing the garden wall.
I'll see it one more time. Go home, get her packed up, and bring her back here on time. No tricks, no cute little loopholes, nothing. Don't bring anybody else with you, or I'll kill them. Got it?
The human shuddered. How? How? His voice cracked. How can you do this? You don't have to do this. This is your castle, your land. Surely there are enough women of your own kind to choose from. You don't have to steal my daughter. The skeleton shifted to look at him.
Nope.
He said, and made to step around the human. Wait! Proust fell to his knees, fists clasped in supplication. One thing, my lord, I beg of you. Please don't harm her. Sans could have cheerfully punted the man across the garden.
The fuck?
The monster snarled down at him.
Why the hell would I hurt my own wife? What am I? A goddamn human?
There was no answer, only a ragged sob.
Good night.
The skeleton muttered. Proust tried to say something else, but Sans paid him no mind. He had things to do and to look forward to. Real quick, let me just say thank you so much for being my first official guest on this, my video thing. So, thank you very much. You are a fantastic Underfell Sans and Underfell Papyrus.
Nah, I'm not on my ball game right now, but I did what I could.
It was great.
I do much better
fantastic.
work when I record, and
Dave, you are amazing, but the bar is also really low, because the bar is me doing those voices. So if you're better than that, that's good enough.
no, you're a good old man. They got very, very, what's the old man's name from Beauty and the Beast's name?
Philippe.
Maurice.
No, that's the horse.
Philippe is the horse. Maurice.
Sorry.
The whole time I imagined this was like a skinny Maurice, and
Yeah, a skinny Maurice.
yeah, you did good. You did good.
My favorite thing, Dave, is when you stay in character when you're like, no, I messed that up.
Listen, I get stuck in character because I'm in
No.
character.
No,
Like-
please don't ever stop that. I love it so much.
It's whenever I record like stuff and I mess up, I do the same thing, or I'll switch around to a different character for some reason.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year! It's almost time. It's about 10 p.m. here nearly. Thanks for having me on. I don't know if I've said my name much. I'm Davetastic. Davetastic Dave, if you're fancy. I do funny voices on the internet, mostly skeletons. But I've done a lot of different things, like Pokemon and Overwatch and things like that.
Yeah, check him out.
A lot of my work is on my channel, with my wife. It's Two All-Nighters. It's a really good channel. We're gonna have a Christmas-themed video coming up soon. It's a little late, but it's well worth the wait. We worked really hard on it.
Nice.
Check out the Bonely Hearts Club fan game. It's on... what's the website again?
I
Blair.
don't know.
Blair, what's the website? No, Blair can't hear me.
We may
on.
never know. It's okay,
No,
Dave.
no,
I'll
no,
put
no.
it in the video.
Yes, Bonely Hearts Club game on website. It's free to play. The demo's out. The full game will come out when it comes out.
Okay, well, let me say real quick, if you enjoyed listening to this, please consider dropping Dave a tip. I will put a link in the description. If you enjoyed it, please consider supporting the guest artist.
Yeah, anything you contribute will be appreciated.
Yep. Alrighty, thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you
This was
for
very
having
fun.
me.